Tutoratti again. Our previous video, we started with our interesting chapter, how do organisms reproduce? Kids, we had covered the topic of asexual reproduction. In today's video, it's going to be yet another interesting video, and now we are going to learn about sexual reproduction. What do we know about sexual reproduction? That two parents are going to be involved and it includes more complex multicellular organism. Absolutely correct. Let us begin with the introduction to sexual reproduction and what are its importance. I just told you that two parents are involved. Dogs, humans, plants, bird. मतलब जो more complex, complicated organisms होते हैं, they are going to perform this mode of reproduction. Sexual reproduction, there is a female parent and there is a male parent. Now kids, इन दोनों के reproductive cells, जिसको हम sex cells भी बोलते हैं. See kids, understand this. Why is it called as sexual reproduction? Because sex cells are involved in this process. तो मैम, asexual reproduction, absence of sex cells. Good. Asexual reproduction में sex cells नहीं होते हैं. Over here, reproductive cells are going to be involved. Male के केस में बच्चा the reproductive cell is sperm or male gametes. It is also called as gamete, germ cells or sex cells. Different terminologies but meaning सबका same ही है. We could say germ cells or gametes or reproductive cells or sex cells. Male gamete is called as sperm. Female gamete को हम egg cell या ovum भी बोलते हैं. Sperm is going to be smaller and motile. Motile is going to able to move about. Mobility बताते हैं. On the other cell, egg cell जो होता है, it is going to be larger. Why? Because it contains stored food. So sperm in case of male and egg or ovum in case of female. The male and the female gamete is going to fuse together. Sperm and ovum is going to fuse together to form a unicellular zygote. Yes, पहले हम unicellular zygote के form में होते हैं, and then this zygote is going to keep on dividing and develop into various cells and tissues. What is the importance of sexual reproduction? Since there is a fusion of two germ cells from two different individuals, variety is going to be produced, variations is going to be produced. See, asexual reproduction में क्या था? एक ही parent cell था और उससे ही new daughter cells बन रहे थे. तो वैसे के वैसे they were becoming the copies of each other. But here I have two parents, which means two different individuals, two different sets of genes are involved, and thus variety or variation is going to be produced. And we know that giving rise to diversity. Variations give rise to variety and thus diversity. And as we have already discussed, it enables organism to adapt and also survive in the changing environment. So this is the importance of sexual reproduction. Continuing with sexual reproduction, we are now going to learn about sexual reproduction in case of plants. But जब plants में flower is the structural and functional unit अगर हम sexual reproduction की बात कर रहे हैं तो. Now understand this, plants could be of two types. एक जो reproduce करते हैं with the help of vegetative organs और दूसरे जो reproduce करते हैं with the help of reproductive organs. We have already learned about vegetative organs. In this part we are going to learn about reproductive organs, and as I told you, plant का structural and functional unit होता है flower for sexual reproduction. Let us first understand the parts of the flower. This is important from your diagram point of view as well. So let's start with it. First part is called as sepal. सबने flower के उधर नीचे green color के parts देखे रहेंगे, उसको sepals बोलते हैं. They are going to protect the flower in the bud condition. कली condition में protect करते हैं, and since being green in color, they are going to perform the function of photosynthesis. Yes. फिर आते हैं petals. Petals are going to be large, colorful, attractive. Also, they are going to protect the inner part of the flower, जो important होते हैं, and also attract insects. Sepals and petals are called as the outer protective part of the flowers. Next, carpel is present in the center. ये flower के center में जो आपको दिख रहा है, that is called as carpel, and it is the female reproductive part of the flower. Kids, carpel जिसको हम pistil भी बोलते हैं, you will find this word also. Carpel is also called as pistil. It is made up of 3 parts. The bottom swollen part is called as ovary. The middle elongated part is called as style. The sticky terminal part is called as stigma. Ovary, style, stigma. Consider your hand to be like a carpel or pistil. The bottom swollen part is ovary, middle elongated part is style, and the terminal, the sticky part is going to be the stigma. And as I told you, it is the female reproductive part of the flower. Carpel जिसको हम pistil भी बोलते हैं. Next, बच्चों, there is something called as stamen. It is the male reproductive part. Stamen is made up of 2 things. I have filament, ये रहा जो long structure आपको दिख रहा है, that's filament, and anther. So stamen is made up of anther and filament. Anther is the place जहाँ पे pollen grains are going to be produced. It produces pollen grains that are going to be yellowish in color. So anther and filament. And as I told you, this is the male reproductive part. So this structure of the flower हमको diagram के लिए आता है. Carpel female reproductive, stamen male reproductive. Carpel is the female reproductive part and stamen is the male reproductive part. Now we are going to understand the structure of stamen in detail. We know that stamen is made up of 2 parts, anther and filament. Yes. Now kids, anther को अगर आप एकदम zoom या एकदम magnified structure आप देखते हो तो you will see that it is bilobed. 2 lobes है, इसके लिए उसको bilobe structure भी बोलते हैं. The anther is going to produce pollen grains. I told you, anther के अंदर होते हैं pollen grains. Each pollen grain or every pollen grain is going to have 2 male gametes. So let us put it in a flow chart way. Stamen consists of anther and filament. Anther के अंदर pollen grains के अंदर male gamete. Are you getting the flow? Yes. Anther के अंदर pollen grains और pollen grains के अंदर होते हैं 2 male gametes. Inside the ovary there is a structure called as ovule. Ovary के अंदर ovule. Ovary के अंदर ovule. Ovule के अंदर होता है बच्चा embryo sac. Inside the ovule there is embryo sac. At the bottom of the embryo sac, one more time, at the bottom of the embryo sac there is egg cells. I have told you, egg cells are female gametes, female reproductive cells. You can see at the center of the embryo sac there is going to be secondary nucleus जिसको हम polar nuclei भी बोलते हैं. So let's put it all together. Ovary के अंदर ovule, ovule के अंदर embryo sac. Embryo sac के bottom में होते हैं female gametes and at the center they are going to have secondary nucleus. Flowers are going to be of 2 types बच्चा. Unisexual flower जहाँ पे सिर्फ at a time एक ही sex present होता है, very self-explanatory word. They are either going to have only carpel or only stamen. और फिर आते हैं bisexual, having both the sexes in one. Unisexual flower, the flower either contains stamens or carpels. For instance, you have papaya flower and watermelon flower. Unisexual flower होते हैं. On the other side, bisexual, they are going to consist of both stamen, the male reproductive, and carpel, the female reproductive. Example given is hibiscus and mustard flower. These 2 are going to be bisexual flowers. We have learned all about the parts and structures of the flower. Now let us understand how does reproduction takes place in case of flowers. The process is called as pollination. Let us understand. The process of transfer of pollen grains. Remember, pollen grains जो anther में होते हैं. The process of transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma, as you can rightly see, from anther to stigma is called as pollination. Now kids, pollination further has two types. First one, if the transfer occurs in the same flower, as you can rightly see, the transfer is occurring in the same flower or another flower but of the same plant. Ma'am नहीं समझा, understand this. ये plant तो एक ही है बच्चा, yes. So this pollen grains are transforming from one flower to another flower but of the same plant. Are we understanding this? If the transfer occurs in same flower like this or another flower but वो एक ही plant का हिस्सा है, तो it is called as self pollination, the first type. Let us see the second type. If the pollen is transferred from one flower to another flower bacha, again one flower to another flower of a different plant but belonging to the same species. Transfer is happening from one flower to another flower. Plant alag hai पर species same hai, as you can see. So if the transfer is happening from one flower to another flower of another plant but of the same species, this is called as cross pollination. So the two types is self pollination and cross pollination. This transfer of pollen grains can occur through different medias. It can occur through wind, it can occur through insects and through other agents also. Wind में example given is maize plant. With the help of insects, याद है किds हमने पढ़ा था petals का काम है to attract insect. The answer lies here. उसके वजह से looking at the bright colorful petals, the insects are going to get attracted to the flower. Insects की body पे ना बच्चा pollen grains चिपकते हैं. Just see, the pollen grains stick to the wings, legs and the proboscis of the insects. अभी जब ये same insects goes to the another flower, transfer हुआ ना pollen grain का from one to another? Yes. And there could be other agents like squirrels, bats, water, etc. So this is how pollination takes place, its types and its modes. Kids, we now start with a very important topic from this chapter, that is double fertilization. Let us understand what is double fertilization. उसके पहले let us understand what is fertilization. Kids, whenever there is union of a male gamete and a female gamete, I repeat again, union of male and female gamete together to form a zygote is called as fertilization. Yes. How is that process happening in case of flower? Let us see. After the pollen lands on the suitable stigma, pollination हो गया बच्चा, pollen has landed on a suitable stigma, what it has to do, it has to reach to the female germ cells. याद है female germ cell तो यहाँ पे है, which is at the bottom of the ovary. How is it done बच्चा? For this, a pollen tube is generated. For this, the tube grows out of the pollen grain and travels through the slide and finally reaches the ovary. Kids, we call it as pollen tube. एक tube generate होती है, pollen tube generate होती है, उससे they are going to travel till the female gamete. Two male gametes appear at this point in the pollen tube. Pollen grain has male gametes. I hope we remember that. So if you just see, two male gametes are going to appear at this point in the pollen tube. The pollen tube grows through the stigma and the style by dissolving the tissues and finally reaches the ovary. Just see like this. It is going to start here, traveling through the style, dissolving the tissues and finally reaches the ovaries. Of these, दो male gametes है, याद है, right? One sperm nucleus enters the egg cell and fuses with its nucleus. Just see. Out of that, one is going to go and enter with the egg cell and fuse and join over here, while the other sperm nucleus move towards the polar secondary nucleus, the one in the center of the embryo sac, and then it is going to fuse with them. Thus the three nuclei together produce the endosperm nucleus. Kids, what is endosperm? Endosperm is the nutritive tissue. Endosperm is the nutritive tissue. Altogether kids, if you see, एक बार fertilization इधर हुआ, एक बार fertilization इधर हुआ. Since they have two fertilization happens, this is called as double fertilization. Ma'am, कैसे double? Let's revise it one more time. पहला, when the first sperm nucleus fuses with the egg cell, and दूसरा, when the other sperm nucleus fuses with the two polar nuclei together. Fertilization is happening twice, hence it is called as double fertilization. After fertilization, flower ka purpose has been fulfilled bacha. So ma'am, what happens to the flower? The parts of the flowers that you see, they are going to fall off, they are going to dry off. Petals, stamens, styles, stigma, they wither away, they dry and they are going to fall off because the purpose has been fulfilled. The ovary, यहाँ पे the bottom swollen part we know, right? Ovary is going to later enlarge to form a fruit. The ovarian wall is going to form the fruit wall. I repeat one more time. Ovary turns into fruit, ovarian wall becomes the fruit wall. And kids, याद है मैम ने बताया था ovary के अंदर ovule, ovary के अंदर ovule. वैसे भी हम देखते हैं fruit के अंदर seed होता है, right? Oranges ले लो, apple ले लो. The ovule becomes the seed. So one more time. Ovary is the fruit, ovule is the seed. The ovule becomes the seeds. These seeds contain the future plant or the embryo. If you want to grow a new plant, हम seeds को ही plant करते हैं, right? Yes, because it consists of the future plant or the embryo. The embryo develops into seedling. अगर उसको proper condition, proper soil मिला है, it is going to develop into a tiny seedling or a plantlet under appropriate condition. And this process is called as seed germination. Germinate is nothing but grow. Germinating is nothing but grow. So kids, now we learned about sexual reproduction and we covered the topic of sexual reproduction in case of plants. Diagram, structure of flower is important. Double fertilization important. I hope this video was useful to you people. Please subscribe to Tutoratti and hit the bell icon to get more updated videos for our next topic. Thank you so much kids.